If I could go back in time and do three things very differently in my financial life, what would they be? Well, I'm going to share these three things with you right now. Welcome back, everyone, to Sugar Mama's Fireplay podcast. I am Canna Campbell. I really hope that you're well, and I really hope that you're enjoying all of my podcasts, which I publish every Monday morning for you. I hope that you're starting to really feel a sense of greater financial well-being in your life, even if you've only just begun, even if it's only a few little changes in what you're doing in your relationship with money. I hope that you're feeling far more empowered and inspired to continue on building your financial wellness. Now, today I want to talk to you about my three biggest regrets when it comes to money in my life, particularly when I was in my late teens and my early 20s. Where did I go wrong? If I could do things differently, what would they be? You see, a lot of people assume that I was born good with money. I've always been good at money. I've always been good at saving. I've always been good at investing. I've always been really meticulous and organized with my money, and I do everything perfectly. And whilst I believe I'm pretty good with money, the truth is, it has been based on a lot of hard work, incredible patience. I mean, I saved my deposit for my first apartment for 6 years, if not longer. It's involved a huge amount of dedication, persistence, and I'd say probably more likely me being incredibly stubborn. I'm like a dog with a bone when I want something. And even creativity along the way. I mean, the $1,000 project for me was a creative process. And all of these things I've had to use and harness to help get me through good times as well as the bad times. And even today, I'm constantly learning and evolving in my own financial world, in building and continuing to build my own financial well-being, which is based around independence and freedom. Now, my financial journey, in fact, nobody's financial journey is always a straight trajectory, onwards and upwards, but one that is a lot like the ocean. Sometimes there are really big, scary waves, frightening. Sometimes there are dangerous currents and rips that rip us out of nowhere and take us from one side of the world to the other. But there's also times where the ocean and the seas are incredibly calm. The waters are crystal clear. The waters are warm. We see beautiful waves, maybe like a perfect barrel if you're a surfer. And you might see beautiful fish and dolphins and whales around you, and it's an incredible journey. And sometimes those rips actually might help send you in the direction that you're trying to go in a more efficient way, in a faster way, a way that you use, I guess, less energy. So over time, I've had to learn how to read those waves. I've had to learn how to ride those waves. I've had to learn how to keep my head above water. I've had to learn how to duck dive when those waves have got big and scary. And all of these experiences have ultimately helped me in my financial journey. Now, all these different ocean conditions have ultimately helped build my financial education, my financial experience. And at times, this has included and involved me getting things wrong, sometimes very wrong. I don't want you to think that I am perfect with money. I get things wrong. I sometimes waste money. I sometimes make a bad investment decision. I sometimes do something at the wrong time. That's life. Nobody is perfect with money. However, I believe that I have gotten less things wrong in my life financially by asking questions, researching, leaving no stone unturned, being, I guess, maybe even a little bit nosy at times. I've never been afraid to ask people for advice. I was always the kid in the class that would put my hand up and ask questions, even though I'm sure at times they were really stupid and dumb questions, but I just made sure I always asked, even if I needed to know for my own clarification or reassurance. And one thing that I've always loved to do is ask people, what did they do that was right? What did they do that they regretted? What were the challenges along the way? How do they get through the other side? And so on. And of course, what were the blessings in disguise? Now, these answers, kindly shared by people, including various mentors in my life, have helped me hugely in my own personal journey, actually, even beyond my financial well being. And these answers have contributed to having greater wisdom through their experience, listening to their answers, building up my own awareness and insight for myself from hearing what they had to say, what they had to share, what they gained from that experience, because they would then impart that on me. So today, I guess you could kind of say, it sounds really cheesy, maybe I'm trying to pay it back. But I want to share with you, if I could go back in time, what are the 3 things I would do very differently in my financial world? Now, this podcast is a 2-part series. So this week, I'm going to share with you the 3 things that I got wrong. And then next week, I'm going to share with you the 2 things that I got right. And my hope for this podcast, as you listen to it, is that it might help you change a habit or a mindset that might be holding you back in life. Or it might be shifting or tweaking one of your financial goals that maybe inspires and empowers you more for greater success, for greater efficiency, for maybe even to open up your mind as to what you can really achieve. And most importantly, it encourages a more authentic sense of self-care, and adventure in your life. Now, with all of my podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, and stuff that you've seen on Instagram, I have to do that reminder that everything is general advice only. All of my content is educationally based only. It's never personal advice, it's never investment advice, it's never strategic advice, it's never product advice. So if anything I ever talk about and you think, oh, is that a sign that I should be doing this myself? Please make sure you go and speak to a financial planner and ask them for personal advice. All right, let's get cracking. All right, what's the first thing that I really regret if I could go back in time and I would change? Well, it would actually be being wasteful on money. I remember I think it was when I got my first job. When I was at university, I actually worked 2 jobs. I worked for an IT company and I also worked behind a bar. And whilst I was saving very hard for the deposit for my first apartment, I still wasted a lot of money. I would spend money on makeup. I still today like buying makeup, but back then I remember I saved up so much money to buy this custom eyeshadow palette, and I had all these disgusting clown colors. And this makeup palette was so expensive, and I was just obsessed with wanting to have all the colors within this palette. It was like an addiction. It was sort of out of control. I also used to get really caught up in fashion trends and to a certain degree, trying to keep up with the Joneses. I remember there are these beautiful Christian Dior sunglasses, and this is going back to 2001 maybe. And these sunglasses were so expensive. I think they were $350 or maybe even more at the time, which is an obscene amount of money for sunglasses back then, and I still think is an obscene amount of money today. But all the cool girls around me had these Dior wraparound glasses. And if you're of a similar age, you might actually know the style that I'm talking about. And I desperately wanted to have a pair. And I went out and bought a similar pair, but were wrong because I was trying to keep up, but they weren't the right ones. They weren't cool enough. And then I had to go and buy another pair. I remember I once even bought an outfit to go and fly on a plane because I was worried that I wouldn't be dressed appropriately for the flight. And it was the most ugly outfit. It was so not me at all. I felt so uptight and conservative, and I ended up looking at those clothes with detest and disgust at myself that I actually even went and bought it. And it was actually a really expensive outfit at the time. I also used to do this with furniture. When I finally bought my apartment, I bought furniture. In this haphazard manner, I would go and buy furniture without stopping and thinking, okay, well, this sofa fabric would go with that ottoman. All right, that TV unit is way too big for the apartment. It's not going to work. And I just had rookie error after rookie error in trying to, put stuff in my apartment. And this was all a massive waste of money. I wish I learned about minimalism earlier in my life, because minimalism has really stopped the financial wastage in my life, the excess, the clutter. I now, and have been for a really long time, from the moment I discovered minimalism, really slowed down my consumption. I shop mindfully. It's why my book is called Mindfull Money, because I now really think and plan my purchases. I really make sure that if, for example, I go and buy a new eyeshadow palette, it's going to have colors in it that actually are going to enhance my skin. They're going to work with my skin tone and my eye color. They're colors that make me feel good. I'm also going to make sure that if I do go and buy makeup, it's a good quality, it meets my value system, and I'll check my eyeshadow palettes at home that I already own so I don't waste money and buy duplicates. With my furniture, I spend a lot of time research and planning and making sure everything complements each other. It's well-made furniture. It's going to stand the test of time. It reflects the style and the taste that I really like. My clothing. I actually just recently published a podcast about how I afford fashion. I will really research. I will be a really fussy consumer. I will make sure that I stick to just a couple of stores and that my clothes will work harmoniously within a color palette. I have wasted so much money in my youth on just silly stuff, trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to fit in. It's also trying to, I guess, find myself, find a sense of who I was, what was important to me. And when I look back in time, I think I have grown so much as a person. I'm definitely not the person I used to be in my early 20s as what I am today. I feel like I have a greater sense of who I am, and I do look back with regret as to how much money I wasted in my life. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I can really relate to what Canna is talking about, do yourself a huge favor and go and learn about minimalism. Dip your toe in and see if it is of any interest to you, because minimalism has got to be probably one of the biggest breakthroughs, shifts, and improvements and value adds in my life beyond money. All right, next regret I have is actually around my financial goals, which is probably going to come as a huge surprise to a lot of you. Now, when I go back to like my early 20s and I think about my financial goals, and when I look back, if I find my notes, which as I've moved houses every now and again, I've found my old journals and notebooks and so forth, and all my goals and workshops that I attended. And the goals were always gross worth, net worth figures. So, I'd have a goal to, have $100,000 invested, have a net figure wealth of 250,000, or a gross worth figure of 680,000. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but for me, I didn't connect enough with it. Yes, I was inspired. Yes, I was motivated. Yes, I was driven, but not on a deep, meaningful, empowered, engaged, committed, connected way. For me, the moment I turned those goals and shifted them from being net worth or gross worth goals, which to me, when I look back in time, and to me, when I see a gross worth or net worth figure, it kind of just feels like a meaningless phone number. But I shifted them to be passive income goals. Boy, did I up the ante on my commitment and dedication and my passion to improve my financial well-being even further. Because for me, that passive income represented something much bigger and better in my life. Knowing that I was building a passive income of, say, for example, $80,000 per year, that to me was the light at the end of the tunnel. That was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that kept me moving and growing, and made sacrifices, not sacrifices, but meaningful, dedicated, empowered decisions. Because the passive income represented to me freedom, choice, time, flexibility, adventure. Because that $80,000 meant I could cut my work down to, say, 2 days a week or 3 days a week. It meant that I could afford to go on holiday every year without having to worry about money. That meant I could retire, a hell of a lot earlier than what, maybe I had originally planned. To me, it was a much more meaningful goal, and it was huge. So my regret is that I didn't shift my financial goals away from being one-dimensional, but to being two-dimensional with the power of having a passive income goal. Because to me, that was a lot more, I guess, a sexier goal, a more meaningful goal. And if you are someone who's, when you look at your goals, these goals are, gross worth, net worth goals, have a go and ask yourself, what does that actually mean? Where is the value behind those? Because sometimes I feel like I dropped the ball, or I got distracted more, or I was disinterested when I had those goals, if you add the element, or I guess the magic ingredient of a passive income goal, it definitely changes and evolves your financial journey, I believe, for the better. And I have to say, that moment where I started thinking about my passive income goal, that was a huge aha moment. And if you're ever wondering, okay, well, I want a passive income goal, but I don't know what that passive income goal should be, the first place to start is looking at your budget. That is, what is your cost of living? How much money do you need to earn to be able to survive with your lifestyle? So, for example, you might sit down and do a budget and you discover, okay, well, for me to be able to pay my rent, go on a holiday, and be able to, pay for food and go to restaurants with my friends and buy the clothing that I currently buy, my cost of living is $75,000 a year. If you wanted to, you could build your passive income goal to be $75,000 a year and say you earned $75,000 per year off your investment portfolio through, various passive income streams. That would mean that you don't actually physically have to go to work if you don't want to. Now, you might be thinking, no, I love my job. Why would I want to stop work? And that's great. And I'm in the same boat as you because I love my job. Even if I had, achieved my passive income goal today, I would still be working and doing what I do today because I love it so much. What an alternative for you might be will be like, okay, well, my cost of living is $75,000 a year, but I would love to be able to start up a new business on the side. So I'll need at least 2 days per week to work on that new business. Or I'd love to go and do a new course or change my career path, those sorts of things. So that is when you might go, okay, well, I'm going to have a passive income goal for myself of, say, $35,000 a year because that's going to allow me to have that freedom in my life. Or alternatively, you might want to even aim even higher and go, you know what, my cost of living is $90,000 per year, but I want more luxury in my life. I want more freedom. I want more adventure. I want more travel. I want to go to more restaurants. I want to see more countries. I want to explore more cities. I want to be able to take my family and friends with me. That is perfectly fine. That is awesome if that's what you want. And perhaps you might go, well, actually, my passive income goal needs to be $120,000 a year. Now, of course, with your passive income goals, I have to put my financial planning cap back on and remind you of income tax and inflation, of course. But that is how you start to really connect and build meaningful, authentic goals that inspire you, empower you, make you want to spring out of bed. As I said, those sacrifices, the things you've had to say no to and give up, don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They seem and feel like meaningful, valuable investments that are going to really pay off. And the return is that peace of mind, that relief, that sense of progress. As you see, okay, well, my passive income so far is $2,000 a year, and then you check in again, and the next year it's $3,500. You can see that sense of progress. And of course, it might be small and slow, and it might be quick and big, those growths as you achieve your goals. But it is so incredibly powerful and is so incredibly meaningful. So definitely relook at your goals and try, if you can, to include a passive income goal in there. The third and final regret that I have in my financial life, and this will probably come as a big surprise to some people, is I really wish I had traveled more. Now, when I was in my 20s, as I said, I was saving up for so long and so hard for my deposit. And a lot of my friends were going on gap years. They were going, backpacking around Thailand and, driving around the US and, working and living in London and, learning languages while living in, say, Norway or, I didn't do any of that. And I'm grateful for the sacrifices I made. There's no doubt about it. But I just wish I had included more adventure, more exploration. Because when you travel, you're investing in yourself. We become more open-minded. We learn about other cultures. It only contributes to our own personal growth and development, which is invaluable to everyone in anyone's life. And as I said, look, I can't afford to travel today. And look, the one thing I've always believed is travel is not something you only do exclusively in your youth when you have that time and that freedom. It's something you can do throughout your life. And because of this regret that I have, I'm definitely prioritizing as I achieve my financial goals and I get closer and closer to achieving my passive income goal, which if you've read Mindful Money is called my Mindful Money number. I'm definitely including more and more international travel. And I intend in taking my children with me till they're at the age where they're like, no, it's not cool traveling with mum and dad. I will drag them, to every corner of the world when I can, so that they can, experience travel, and we can do it together, and we can have memories and adventures and experiences together. But I definitely wish I had, in my budget, in my early 20s, I regret not traveling more. I really should have prioritized in my budget more money. And this is where it comes back to that waste, I guess. Less makeup, less clothes, less oversized furniture that didn't fit or suit my apartment, and shifted, I guess, that financial wastage into, more experiences, more travel, seeing, more places in the world. And that is a huge regret of mine. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, maybe one of my 3 regrets may be something you can relate to. Maybe it's a sign that you need to ease up on maybe your financial goals and include more fun in your life. Maybe it's a sign that you need to shift and tweak your own personal financial goals. Maybe it's a warning that you need to rein in the spending and look at cutting out financial wastage in your life so that you can achieve your other goals, such as travel, such as investing, such as building up your passive income with greater speed and efficiency. But the big thing I want to share with you is I've always been incredibly grateful for when anyone that's important to me or a mentor to me has shared their regrets with me, because I have learnt so much from their mistakes. And when I hear people's stories, and which includes the setbacks, the challenges, and the regrets, each time this has helped me avoid mistakes, avoid the same mistakes or similar mistakes. It's helped me make healthier decisions. It's helped me gain a better understanding of myself. It's helped me see the signs, the lessons, and the nuggets of wisdom, which has only made me a better person in building financial freedom and independence in my life. And hopefully, I guess, a better person. So if something resonates within you as you listen to this podcast, maybe it's a sign for you to make a change. Maybe it's time for you to revisit your goals, revisit your budget, revisit your self-care, self-love, revisit those lifestyle goal accounts that I suggest you set up, and make sure that you're doing this in a more meaningful way that's connected to your value system and serves your higher self, including your higher financial self. And when it comes to someone asking you to share 3 things that have benefited you in your life, or 3 things that were the best thing that you ever did for your financial well-being, you can answer that question with pride, with satisfaction, and with great admiration for yourself in taking the initiative to step up and make a better change for your financial well-being, but also your long-term financial well-being. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you're subscribed to my podcast. Of course, you can make sure that you download the Podbean app if you want to make sure that you have immediate access to the moment I publish my podcast every Monday morning at 5 a.m. And of course, don't forget to listen to the second part of this podcast series, where I share with you the 3 best things that I ever did for myself financially. And I promise you, these are incredibly important things that everyone who listens to this podcast really needs to hear about. I will connect with you again next Monday morning, so make sure you are subscribed.